Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I want to start by saying I really respect your decisiveness. Nobody could say that you're afraid to wade in and make the tough decisions, and certainly we need that kind of leadership. I don't always appreciate the communication strategy of letting us know. You say that sometimes you don't know for 6 months before whether you're going to be into a conflict. Sometimes we don't know whether a program is going or not, and it's a matter of about a day or so that we find out. So sometimes in this committee it would be helpful if you work on the communications and give some of us a heads up as to what you're thinking and where we're going, because we're trying to play as a team with you. Particularly in that regard, I've shifted over. I'm now on the budget committee and trying to help people to understand the difference in growth of entitlements and what's happened to the defense budget as a percent of GDP. As you know, the defense budget's gone very much down since 1965, and entitlements are whatever it is, 600 or 700% increase. But we need to make the case to make sure that you're not so pinched on money that you can't get the job done. So I hope that you look at us as partners and helpers and things. So if you're going to, all of a sudden, for instance, going to whack the expeditionary fighting vehicle, which happens to be in our committee, it'd be helpful to have some idea that you're thinking about that. So we'll move from full speed ahead to all stop. It's a little helpful to have a heads up on it. I was interested to hear you reflect on where you were concerned about where we are overall. I also am concerned about the number of ships. I had a chance to spend 3 hours in one of those situation rooms that was designed to give us a picture from Hail Britannia, ruler of the seas, and all through our history. And one of the big lessons from that was you fight the war with the ships that you have, or at least the ones you have on the ways. You can't design a new ship and build it until the war will be over by the time you get there. My concern was we were talking about a 313 ship Navy. We're down to 287, and as you point out, when you put the ballistic missile submarine or something in there, boy, that budget just blows up. So I certainly hope we can work on whatever we can do to try to continue on the building. The other thing, the expeditionary fighting vehicle, I don't really give a rip what particular platforms we have, but it seems to be non-negotiable that Marines have to get from the ocean to the land, and they've got to get there quick enough and not seasick enough and not full of diesel fumes enough that they can actually fight when they get to shore. And I'm not convinced that we have an adequate strategy without having that vehicle or something to fill that gap. So it's something we're going to take a look at, but I hope that you'd at least allow us to go through that and be flexible with us in saying if we don't have a good strategy, let's make sure we have a good one, because I think the Brits decided they weren't going to do that capability, and then they got in the Falkland Island War and just about lost it because they hadn't planned to be able to get their Marines on the shore. So just wanted to allow you to respond to my rambling here a little bit, but we want to work with a team, that's my main point, with you, but we need a little bit of heads up before you make your decisive moves. Thank you, sir.
Well, first of all, on the EFV, let me just say publicly and for the record, the Department of Defense totally supports the Marine Corps in a firm requirement for an amphibious assault capability for the Marines. We just don't want to spend $15 billion, which is virtually all of the Marine Corps' ground vehicle procurement budget, for enough vehicles to take 4,000 out of 202,000 Marines from ship to shore. Now, I think the Commandant, and it should be clear, this was a recommendation from the Commandant to the Secretary of the Navy and from them to me. And I think we should also understand the Commandant does have an alternative plan.